Even though you've been freeloading unemployed for so long, you're so cocky. Get out. Don't think you can live this luxuriously forever. As I lifted my face from the laptop I had been working on at the dining table, a sharp pain shot through my neck. Ouch, that's hot. I cried out, turning around to find my mocking mother-in-law holding a hair iron. I remembered she had been preparing to go out in the washroom earlier. Now, she was pressing that hair iron against my neck. So even a parasite like you feels heat. I was just testing how thick-skinned you are. You're completely useless, yet you live such a luxurious life. But I do work hard. Why are you treating me so terribly? You call that working? Staying at home and being lazy is not a job. It's about time you stop leeching off us. However, the real parasites were my husband and mother-in-law. I was the one paying the $5,000 rent, living expenses, and allowances for both of them. Despite that, I wondered why I had to endure such treatment. I've reached my limit. Leave this house immediately. Who knows what I might do next? Just to be clear, you really want me to leave? Once I go, I'll never come back to this place, you know? Yes, please do. I never want to take care of someone as poor as you again. I had become indifferent to such a home and family. Tears mixed with frustration and pain in my neck. I packed my belongings. Without looking back, I left my in-laws' house for good. My name is Kelly, 35 years old. It has been 2 years since I got married. Even before marriage, I had been working from home as a freelance writer. After graduating from college and working in a company, I had to quit and return to my parents' home when my father had an accident. I couldn't let my mother, who had difficulty walking, take care of my father alone. That's when I started looking for a job I could do from home. I began as a freelance writer with simple internet-related tasks. As my father recovered and I found more time, I gradually took on more work. It turned out I was quite suited for writing, and my income steadily increased. My articles were well received by readers, leading to direct contract offers. Before I knew it, I was earning more than I did as a company employee. During this time, I attended a reunion with my college circle friends. "Hey, isn't that Kelly? Long time no see." Someone called out to me. There I met Ben again, who would later become my husband, 2 years my junior. In college, Ben was always the life of the party, known for his quick decision-making and energetic personality. After graduation, he worked for a renowned foreign company. We didn't interact much during college, but that day, we talked in depth for the first time. Perhaps because our personalities were so different, our conversation never ran dry. After meeting a few times, we naturally started dating. Hey, I really like foreign fashion accessories. My dream is to open a select shop that deals only with my favorites. In fact, I've already started preparing for it. For example, Ben shared his future dreams with me. I enjoyed listening to him. His mature intellect combined with a childlike curiosity made his stories seem achievable. Even a reserved person like me felt exhilarated just by listening, so I was genuinely happy when he proposed. A turning point came about a year after we got married. My father-in-law passed away suddenly. It was an unexpected death. "Kelly, would you mind living with my mom for a while?" My husband asked. Due to his father's job, his parents had been living in a luxury apartment for several years. But after his death, it was difficult to continue paying the high rent. Mom is still struggling to accept his sudden passing. She wants to stay there a bit longer, but the lease still has about a year left. Could we stay for that period? Indeed. It must be hard for your mother to move so soon after your father's passing. We can't leave her alone. Don't worry about the rent. Mom and I will cover it, but since it's expensive, could you help with the living expenses until my father's inheritance arrives? It's fine. No problem. It's a bit on the expensive side, but it's only for a year after all. Even though I had no interest in fashion or luxury goods, I was intrigued by what the interior of a luxury apartment might look like. At that time, I underestimated what it would be like to live with my mother-in-law. Little did I know, it was the beginning of my hardships. From the first meeting, it was clear my mother-in-law didn't like me. When we went to announce our marriage, she said, of all people, Ben had to choose an older woman. How did you seduce him? I felt looked down upon. Thankfully, my father-in-law intervened then, but now he was gone. From the day we started living together, my mother-in-law made her intentions clear. I still don't accept you as Ben's spouse. Hearing this, my spirit, already trying to support my tired mother-in-law, began to break. The next day, from my appearance to household chores, I continuously received petty complaints and sarcasm. Kelly, even if you're indoors, stop dressing so sloppily. Do you realize where you are? Always be ready for guests. Dress properly. Huh? This isn't my loungewear, though. What? That's not loungewear. Jeans are not acceptable. Wear a skirt at the very least. Always have your makeup done before breakfast. Is this the high-end lifestyle? I wondered, but obediently responded with yes. In the evening, did you buy these ingredients from that store? How can you make such a poor meal with ingredients from there? It was from a nearby luxury supermarket. I'm sorry, did it not suit your taste, Mary? It's just a simple salad. Ben likes it, so I often make it. But yes, that supermarket is quite expensive. My goodness, how embarrassing. Act in a way that doesn't bring shame to our family. You never know who's watching. She sighed deeply, shaking her head in disappointment. At that moment, I made a firm vow to myself. I would do everything in my power to be recognized by my mother-in-law. From grooming to cooking skills, I worked hard every day. However, her critical eyes never softened. Initially, I took her sarcasm and cold words lightly, but they gradually began to feel crushing. I felt invalidated, powerless. I wanted to confide in Ben, but our life together had changed. We used to enjoy our time as a couple daily, but since moving in, our opportunities to see each other had decreased. Sorry, I've been really busy with work lately. Hearing him say this tiredly, I felt unable to speak my mind. But being human, I have my limits. I felt the need to share my stress with Ben. Hey, I have something to discuss. Oh, I actually have something to talk to you about too. I quit my job 3 months ago. What? Quit? What do you mean? Don't worry, I've already started another job. Remember the select shop I always wanted to open? I finally launched it. I'm co-managing it with Senior Eric. What? You never mentioned any of this before. Senior Eric was a widely respected figure in our university circle, admired for his leadership and charisma. He had combined creativity and business sense, successfully developing and selling a game app in college and starting a startup with friends, showcasing his talents. I believe there's no doubt about his ability as a business partner. I had heard rumors of his recent success in web design. Ben, in his usual gentle tone but looking slightly guilty, said, I didn't want to worry you or Mom. I'll work harder from now on. Will you support me? I was moved by his words, yet hesitant. I'll support you. But it was then Ben brought up an unexpected request. Thanks. So, about the rent for this house, can you cover all of it? I felt a mix of surprise and confusion. What? But weren't you and your mother supposed to split the rent? It's impossible for me to pay it all by myself, especially since I'm already covering the living expenses. My heart was filled with anxiety. Ben looked at me earnestly and pleaded, Please, Kelly. This has always been my dream. It's taking longer than expected to turn a profit. That's why I want to invest more in advertising. I'll definitely get this business on track before we leave here. I need your help to do that. Moved by his passion and earnestness, I couldn't refuse. I could afford the rent with my income, and fortunately, we had some savings. More importantly, I had never forgotten the day I chose to marry him, sharing and empathizing with his dreams and passion. If you say so, I understand, but only until the lease on this rental ends. Also, I want to know more about the store you're running. Of course, thank you, Kelly, Ben said and showed me the website of his select shop. I was impressed by its charm. Is there anything I can help with? I offered, but Ben firmly declined. I want you to focus on your work. And please, don't tell my mother about this. I don't want to worry her unnecessarily. With this new development, thoughts of my mother-in-law completely left my mind. I wholeheartedly wanted to support Ben's business, but the amount I had to pay each month only increased. Gradually, managing the entire household budget, financially aiding my husband, and even giving an allowance to my mother-in-law became my responsibility. My only wish was for the rental contract to end quickly. "Kelly, could you put off your computer work for a bit and do some cleaning? Since you're staying here, you should be more proactive with the household chores," my mother-in-law said. I hurriedly replied, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mother. I'll start as soon as I finish this job." "This is your job. Enough excuses. Get it done quickly. We have guests coming this afternoon. After you're done cleaning, please leave the house." My relationship with my unaware mother-in-law remained unchanged over time. Since we started living together on days when she had guests, I always had to leave the house after finishing the cleaning. It seemed I was bothering her. Fortunately, I could work anywhere with my laptop, which was a small consolation. However, that day held a different outcome. When I returned home in the evening, my mother-in-law, looking satisfied, greeted me with "Welcome back. I tidied up your room." Confused, I rushed to my office. The room was indeed tidied, but rather, my belongings were organized. I don't own many things, but in the center of the room were a large suitcase and 2 duffel bags. "What does this mean, Mother?" I asked. "This room was initially prepared for guests. I can't accept someone with your lack of housekeeping skills using it. If you want to use this room, you'll have to pay an appropriate fee. If you don't like that, leave immediately. Don't expect to live luxuriously here for free," she declared. I swallowed my words. Why must I endure such treatment? As I silently bowed my head, my mother-in-law said with satisfaction, "I'll say it again. I don't accept you as Ben's wife." With that, she huffed and returned to the living room. Tears welled up in my eyes from frustration. I tried to contact Ben, but he didn't answer his phone. After I messaged him about the incident, he replied, "Please bear with it a little longer." Unable to contain my anger, I poured out everything to Ben when he returned late at night. "Just hold on a little longer. I'm stressed with work too. Don't worry about my mother, it's just a bit more endurance," he said. "I'm paying the full rent, and now she wants me to pay for my room too. I can't tolerate her unreasonable demands any longer," I protested. After hearing this, Ben hurriedly tried to calm me. "I'm really sorry. I'll talk to her. Once we leave here, you won't have to see her again. Please, just bear with it for a little while longer," he pleaded. "Soon. And then, I'll never have to see her again." Ben's words slightly eased my anger. The next day, Ben seemed to be talking to his mother before he left. We had breakfast together, but there were no usual sarcastic remarks from my mother-in-law. Since my room was tidied up, I decided to continue working at the dining table. "Are you leaving today?" At my mother-in-law's words, I looked up from my computer. Instantly, I felt a sharp pain in my neck. "Ouch, that's hot," I screamed, turning around to see my mother-in-law standing there with a smirk, holding a hair iron. "What are you doing?" I exclaimed. That was all I could say as I held my painful neck and rushed to get a cooling pack from the fridge. Thinking back, my mother-in-law had been getting ready to go out in the washroom earlier. She had used the hair iron she was holding against my neck. "Oh, so you can feel the heat too. I wanted to see how thick-skinned you are. Living such a luxurious life, yet so useless. I work hard too. Why would you do something so terrible? Working? You're just using your at-home job as an excuse to slack off. Nothing but an unemployed person. It's about time you consider our situation and become independent," said my mother-in-law. In reality, I was the one bearing the rent and living expenses. Yet, I couldn't understand why I was being treated this way. Before I knew it, I was glaring at her. "What's with that look? The look of a poor person. I've reached my limit. Leave this house immediately. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll do next. Am I really allowed to leave? I won't come back here ever again, you know? Yes, that's fine. I'm fed up with taking care of poor people like you." Filled with intense pain and disappointment, I cried as I packed my things. Since my mother-in-law had already organized my belongings the day before, it didn't take long. I no longer cared what happened to this house. I left my in-laws' home without looking back. After receiving treatment at the hospital, I went to my usual cafe to calm down. The spacious table arrangement and quiet environment were ideal for focusing on work. As I was contemplating whether to contact Ben, I was suddenly approached. "Kelly, is that you?" To my surprise, it was Senior Eric. "It's been a while. How's Ben doing?" "Senior Eric, long time no see. Ben is in your care. I heard you were the co-owner. Sorry I couldn't greet you earlier," I replied as he furrowed his brow. "Co-owner? What do you mean?" "I just helped with the website design on Ben's request." "Really?" I was shocked. He lied then. "I heard you were the sponsor," Senior Eric said. I was surprised by this revelation. Ben had rented a different apartment and seemed to have worked hard for the first few months. However, he had others manage the inventory and shipping from the beginning. For the online shop's promotion, he didn't do it himself but paid for advertising services. I advised him to do it himself at first, but he insisted it wasn't the role of a businessman. He seemed too fixated on his ideal image of a business owner. As a result, there was no increase in foot traffic or sales, just mounting expenses. Despite this, he gave up too soon. According to Senior Eric, Ben is now deeply involved in internet business, paying high consultant fees. By the way, have you heard about your father-in-law's inheritance? There was quite a bit of debt, not as much as expected. But your mother-in-law is managing her share, so they're financially comfortable. Plus, he said with his wife's good income, even if he fails, they'll be fine. Really? But that funding is also running low. He's been living extravagantly, acting like a business owner, and sometimes treating his juniors. I was at a loss for words. The reason I had to cover my mother-in-law's allowance was that they had used up my father-in-law's inheritance. Ben's recent frequent requests for financial support were probably because his funds were running low. He hadn't told me about the inheritance, perhaps for that reason. Doubts connected with Senior Eric's words, and everything became clear. I got up unsteadily, thanked him, and left the cafe. Before I knew it, I was in front of my parents' house. Seeing me with my luggage, my father looked surprised. Tears overflowed as I saw the faces of my parents, who I had been holding back my sorrow from. "Tell us what happened. Your mom and I are always on your side." "That's right. You always try too hard on your own." Their warm words made me cry again. Then, crying, I told my parents everything. Ben's secrets, the terrible treatment from my mother-in-law, and the fact that I was bearing all the expenses for my in-laws' house. My parents were both outraged and cried with me. "There's no need to go back to your in-laws' house. Live for yourself from now on," my father said. His words deeply resonated with me. After talking about everything, I felt a weight lifted from my heart. What have I been living for these past months? The only message from Ben was a short one asking, "Where are you now?" After that, I received several similar messages. After ignoring several similar messages, his attempts to contact me stopped altogether. To Ben, my existence must have been just that insignificant. More than sadness, I felt a firm resolve. Just having a meal with my parents, I could feel the warmth of a family. Maybe what I had been seeking was such simple moments of happiness. While staying at my parents' house, I gradually felt like I was regaining myself. About 2 weeks later, Ben called, probably because the rent payment was due. "Kelly, where are you? Have things calmed down with Mom? She feels bad about it. Aren't you coming back soon?" "I'm at my parents' house now. I plan to live here from now on. Your mother said she's tired of taking care of a poor person like me, and I'm not going back. Let's get a divorce." "Wait, why divorce? If living with Mom is the problem, let's talk it out. I'm coming to pick you up. Let's talk in person. Why should we talk now when there was no contact before? And how's your business?" After that question, there was a moment of silence. "Actually, I'm seeking advice from someone knowledgeable in business. There might be a big plan realized next month. That's it. Let's go look for a new place to live before that." Ben said, "Don't change the subject. You haven't told me anything important. That's why I don't want to talk anymore. I'll write the divorce papers and send them to you, I said and hung up the phone. However, that night, Ben suddenly appeared at my parents' house. I talked to him through the gap in the door with the chain on. Kelly, please don't be mad. Let's go back. Mom feels bad about it. Come on, stop sulking. Sulking? I was kicked out of the house by your mother. Don't take it seriously. Not take it seriously. Did you know why I left the house? Your mother pressed a hot hair iron against my neck and burned me. I don't know what else might happen, and there's no way I can go back. I brushed back my hair to show him the burn mark on my neck. Did Mom really do that? I'm sorry, I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? Mom told me it was just a simple fight. I'm really sorry. Are you okay? A simple fight? His flippant words made my anger boil over. I had planned to decide on a divorce without facing him, but my indignation overflowed. I felt the same anger towards both my husband and mother-in-law. I thought of blaming them thoroughly. The outrage in my heart seemed to burn. Anyway, I'm not coming back. You should go home too. I'll contact you again tomorrow. Really? Will you actually contact me? I can't accept a divorce without even discussing it. If you don't contact me, I'll come back tomorrow. Ben said this and left. I prepared and arranged to meet with Ben and my mother-in-law 3 days later in the afternoon. The place for the discussion was a cafe restaurant on the 30th floor of a luxury hotel. On the day, I dressed in a high-end brand dress, revealing my neck and styling my hair up. My mother-in-law looked displeased at the sight of me. Thank you for gathering today. I have reserved afternoon tea, so please enjoy it. I smiled at my mother-in-law and Ben. Ben seemed a bit relieved at my calm demeanor. Soon, tea and small appetizers were served at our table. Before we started eating, my mother-in-law began to speak to me. Kelly, I'm truly sorry about last time. I was wrong. Ben scolded me harshly. You'll forgive me, won't you? I didn't respond immediately and quietly continued eating my appetizer. Then, I turned my neck to show the burn scar. I can forgive you. Not until this scar fades. Also, are you aware that Ben quit his job? Ben shook in surprise. My mother-in-law looked at him in astonishment. What? What do you mean he quit? He's been saying he's busy every day. He's busy, right? Now he's an honorable businessman. Wait a minute. Ben panicked. What do you mean, businessman? Did you start your own business? Ben, explain yourself, as my mother-in-law interrogated him. I smiled contentedly while watching Ben struggle to make excuses. At that moment, the tea stand was brought to our table. I enjoyed the delicious-looking sweets while watching Ben and my mother-in-law argue. The view from the luxury apartment was great, but the view from this 30th floor cafe was also special. By the way, Ben, what have you been engrossed in lately? I heard from Senior Eric that you quit the select shop. Is that true? What? How did you? Ben lost color in his face, looking surprised and scared. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law tightly gripped his arm, confused and repeatedly asking, What happened? Why would you do that? I know everything. Ultimately, you were more obsessed with being a successful person than a businessman, right? Despite having no business sense, you just impulsively went ahead and ended up spending all the inheritance your father left, didn't you? Wait, Ben, what does she mean by that? You used up all the inheritance? Could it be? My mother-in-law's voice was full of suspicion and anger. Yes, exactly. Ben has used up all your inheritance as well, right? So our household finances are completely depleted because of Ben. Hey, stop. Don't talk anymore. Mom, don't worry. I'll find a solution. Ben was frantically trying to control the situation. My Ben I believed in betrayed me so much. My mother-in-law's voice was filled with despair, and she leaned back on the sofa in shock. Her expression was clouded with despair, and she seemed unable to say anything more. I continued speaking calmly while pretending to be unaware. Mary, actually, I have been covering all the expenses for the house. Even the allowance you thought Ben was giving you came from my wallet. In addition to that, I've been paying for Ben's expenses while he's been gallivanting around as a businessman. No way. How could that be? Don't worry, Mom. With Kelly's income, we'll manage. Ben's true intentions were revealed. Don't joke. I heard you're getting into another business. We're already at the bottom, spending money and just playing around. Stop it now. My words were a bit harsh, but in that situation, it couldn't be helped. The cafe fell silent, filled with a heavy atmosphere. I finished the tea left in my cup in one gulp and declared, I can no longer take care of you two who are now penniless. You will need to take care of next week's rent payment. And regarding the divorce, let's proceed firmly through a lawyer. As I stood up, I took out the divorce papers from my bag and placed them on the table. Ben pleaded tearfully, I don't want a divorce. Please, don't do this. But my mind was already made up. My mother-in-law's face was trembling with paleness. Kelly, wait, I'm truly sorry. I had no idea. Without you, we can't survive. Kelly, help us. We're family. The word family coming out at this moment was unexpected, but it was too late. You said before that you didn't accept me as family, didn't you? Mary, as compensation for the burn, I would like you to start with this payment. I hope you still have this men's allowance. Saying that, I left the two of them in the hotel. Ben remained silent, ultimately saying nothing. Looking up at the high-rise floors from the ground, I hope they felt the sensation of being cast down from heaven to earth, marking the end of my revenge. Afterward, we got divorced. Ben resisted at first, but when I threatened to report my mother-in-law to the police, he quickly agreed. I thought I couldn't forgive my mother-in-law, but her disappearance from my sight would erase her from my memory. As long as they stay out of my life, that's enough. For that reason, I demanded a substantial amount from Ben for emotional distress. Later, they apparently moved to a cramped apartment. However, the relationship between my wasteful ex-husband and betrayed mother-in-law seems strained. Aiming for independence, my once arrogant mother-in-law is now reportedly doing part-time cleaning work. I couldn't help but laugh at the thought of that scene. Currently, Ben is struggling with debt and working multiple part-time jobs at night. It seems that working as an employee was more suited to his true nature. The active personality of Ben that I once found attractive was, from another angle, just impulsive and shallow foolishness. Living in the luxury apartment and the inheritance from my father-in-law must have revealed his flaws more clearly. I continue to work actively from my parents' home. I met with Senior Eric later and conveyed to him the details and my gratitude. He appreciated my writing skills, and now I am receiving work from him. For the time being, I plan to focus on living for myself with my parents.